Hey everybody, my name is Rydo, and today we will be looking through all the cards for the new Solo Adventure League of Explorers. Solo Adventure is not out yet, not yet, but we can now see the cards. To do that, you click on the collection, click crafting, click here, go to League of Explorers. Now it says no matches found. That's because you have to include the uncraftable cards. All of the cards you're going to get are going to be handed to you, so you can't ever craft them. The only way you can get them is by buying the adventure and beating the bosses in the adventure. Uh, Previously, for the last expansion, there was a lot more cards because it was just a card expansion with no solo adventure. So I broke up each of those videos between Druid, Hunter, so on, and Neutral. But since there's not that many, we're just gonna make this a long recording and go through them all. So, starting with Druid cards, we have a 1 mana spell card called Raven Idol. You have the choose one option of discovering a minion or discovering a spell. Discover is the new keyword that is going to be introduced with League of Explorers, or the League of Explorers. I guess there is a "the" in it. Uh, Discover means you can just pick a card from your deck, as best as I can figure. Doesn't seem like there's gonna be any real limitation in there, so you play this for 1 mana, you can pick any minion from your deck and bring it to your hand. I assume you bring it to your hand. Or you can pick any spell and bring it to your hand. Already that seems super powerful and useful for 1 mana. The only way this card could be better is it would be 0 mana. That's the only way. And that could easily be 0 mana for if other cards are played in combination of that. So they probably put it in the Druid selection because it's so powerful. Next card we have is a 3 mana, 3 attack, 2 health beast called Mounted Raptor. It has a death rattle to summon a random 1 cost minion. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a 3 mana, 2 attack, 2 health creature that would summon a random 1 cost minion already in the game, and this is beating it. Maybe there isn't one. They're doing not Indiana Jones reference, Jurassic Park reference, clever girl. And then the last Druid card is a 4 mana, 4 attack, 4 health beast called Jungle Moonkin. Both players have spell damage +2. I'm not sure I'd really want to play this card. I think you can find other cards that would be 4 mana, 4 attack, 4 health, or better, that wouldn't give your opponent a spell damage +2. And I don't see a real reason why you'd want spell damage +2 in a Druid. I'd have to have a very specialized deck to figure out about that, why that would be helpful. So we move on to Hunter. First one is a 2 mana spell called Dart Trap. It is a secret spell. When the opposing hero power is used, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. That doesn't seem like a worthwhile spell. The only reason why I could think of putting this into a Hunter deck is there is a character that will put 1 of every single kind of secret you have on your field. And if you just wanted a couple more secrets placed when that goes off, that would be one reason why I'd use this, but it seems like a waste of a card even at that. I've only seen 1 person successfully pull off that combination, and it did put 5 secrets on his face, but I think I still beat him. Maybe I didn't. Next one we have is a 2 mana spell called Explorer's Hat. It gives a minion +1/+1 and adds a death rattle to add an Explorer's Hat to your hand. So I'm not sure this is really worth it, but it's an interesting concept. Uh, for the hunter, there probably are some other spells you could play that would do better than +1/+1, and to just constantly use the same 2 mana to give something +1/+1, then use another 2 mana to give +1/+1. I think you could probably spend your mana better and affect the game more than just a +1/+1 for that 4 mana you just spent for the. And then we have finally a 3 mana 2 attack 4 health Desert Camel. I would have sworn there was already a camel in this game. I think there is. It's a beast card, which, yes, you want beasts in your hunter deck. You probably want beast even in your druid deck. Uh, it has a battle cry to put a 1-cost minion from each deck into the battlefield. So this is a little too expensive. 3 mana for 2 attack and 4 health. It's a little too expensive just to put a 1-cost minion into your deck. I could see some very specialized decks using this. I don't think I would pick it though. Unless I just needed more beasts. Always to replace something else. Alright, so the mage we are at is the first one is a 3 mana spell, Forgotten Torch, deals 3 damage and shuffles a Roaring Torch into your deck that deals 6 damage. This is a new concept that's being added to the League of Explorers. You do 3 damage right now, but you run the risk of doing twice as much damage to yourself because you're going to get this Roaring Torch in your deck, and as soon as you draw it, it will do 6 damage to you. So this is the kind of card that if you were going to put in your deck, which I don't think you really should, because for 3 mana to do 3 damage alone is probably not worth it, you would want to play this as the final 3 damage to win the game. That's the only way you could guarantee that you wouldn't turn around and lose by taking 6 damage yourself. Yeah, I wouldn't play this. We're gonna see a lot of cards like that are gonna do something but cost a lot more in the long run. Next one we have is a 4 mana, 4 attack, 4 health creature called Animated Armor. Your hero can only take 1 damage at a time. Excellent card. Really, really excellent card. I don't know why you would put this particularly in the mage section. I think you should probably put this in the warlock section. If there was a warlock card here where your hero could only take 1 damage at a time, well, his special ability does 2 damage to draw a card, that becomes 1 damage. Half of his demon things under warlock do damage to yourself, so if he could only take 1 damage at a time, it'd be so much better. I like this card. This is a great card. I think it is really, really weird to put it in the mage deck. The mage deck is already pretty overpowered for low level and new players. We don't need to give the mage deck another overpowered card. Next one we have is a 5 mana, 6 attack, 3 health creature called Ethereal Conjurer. He has a battle cry to discover a spell. He's a little low on health, but I think for the mage deck this is definitely something you would want. Having those spells in your hand to actually play them is what you need to do for a mage deck. Moving on, the Paladin. First one is a 1 mana spell called Sacred Trial. It's a secret spell. When your opponent has at least 3 minions and plays another, destroy it. This is, I think, Indiana Jones reference. You have chosen poorly. The the very first of the, what is it? Last Crusade trials at the end of the movie, I think is what they're referencing, where you had three people tried to get through the hallway and died, and then, uh, well, I think it was two people actually in the movie, and then Indiana Jones got through it. Uh, so the numbers don't even add up, I think, unless I'm remembering it wrong. Next one we have is a 4 mana, 3 attack, 4 health creature called Keeper of Udaman. I think that's Udaman just misspelled. It says Udaman, no Udaman. I think this is just a joke. It has a battle card to set a minion's attack and health to 3. I think this is actually a very good card because this is the Paladin deck. So your hero ability gives you a 1/1, a 1/1 guy. So if you turn that 1/1 guy easily to a 3/3 guy, you're doing pretty well. So I definitely have this in a Paladin deck. And then the final thing is a 10 mana, maximum amount of mana that you probably could have for a spell. Although there's really nothing stopping them from making like a 20 mana spell card that could only be played under very unique circumstances. And it is called Anything Can Happen. Summon 7 Murlocs that died this game. For a Paladin deck, if you were doing a Paladin Murloc deck, this still is a useless card. Murloc decks are all about winning in the 4th or 5th turn. If you have a Murloc deck, you're almost certainly never going to make it to the 10th turn. I don't see this card getting played much at all. Paladin, moving from Paladin to the Priest, we have a 2 mana, 1 attack, 2 health creature called the Museum Curator. He has a battle cry to discover a Death Rattle card. For a Priest, I don't know how many Priest cards actually have Death Rattle. So that, whether you would want to play this card or not is going to significantly depend on how many Death Rattle cards you have. If you are very short on cards and you just have like a Stalin or Fugan, and you're going for Thaddeus, which is not a strategy many people play these days. It's kind of too slow and not as successful as you think it would be. You might play this, but I don't think most Priest players would play that card. Next one we have is a 5 mana spell called Excavated Evil. It deals 3 damage to all minions and shuffles the card into the opponent's deck. That's interesting. So if you played this on your 5th turn, and it does 3 damage to all minions, your opponent immediately draws it and plays it on their 5th turn. It goes back in your deck, then you turn around and play it again. You could go back and forth, I guess, forever, dealing 3 damage to all minions. But you wouldn't be doing any damage to the face. It seems kind of expensive to do 3 damage to all minions. 5 mana seems a little expensive, and that's all minions, not just your enemy minions. That means you'd be hurting your own guys too, and giving them this card, which isn't very good, but still you'd be giving them a card, which you don't want to do. So I don't think you'd play that. Neither one of these cards would go into my Priest deck right now. Priests are all about healing, and neither one of these cards really have anything to do with healing. Last one is a 6 mana spell called Entomb. Choose an enemy minion, shuffle it into your deck. Interesting. This is the kind of card you could not really have if Hearthstone was a real card game printed on real cardboard, because it would be far too easy to steal somebody's card and then conveniently forget that it was in your deck at the end of the game. Um, but I don't know if you'd really want this. This is 6 mana to get rid of something. It would have to be something really powerful, and then you shuffle it in your deck, and then summon it yourself if you ever draw that card. I don't see playing this. It seems like too random. Just not likely to be successful in its fullness. Plus, if somebody gets like a 10 mana legendary card out on you, uh, you're probably going to lose no matter what. I don't think Entomb is really going to turn the game around for you. Moving on to the Rogue, we have a 1 mana, 2 attack, 1 health creature called the Pit Snake. Destroy any minion damaged by this minion. I think this is a fine card. I kind of wonder how this compares to the other really small mana creature that has Poison Touch. What's interesting is, are they rephrasing Poison Touch, or is has it always been like this? Destroy any minion damaged by this minion, and then it would put the little poison icon at the below it when you play it in the game. They might be getting rid of the phraseology of Poison Touch. I would have to investigate that. Otherwise, I can't say anything wrong with this this card. If your average 1 mana card is going to be something around this, which they usually are, is either it's a 2 attack with 1 health or it's a 1 attack with 2 health, adding the Poison Touch puts this above the curve. Next one we have is a 3 mana, 3 attack, 4 health creature called Unearthed Raptor. Raptors again. It has a battle cry to choose a friendly minion, gain a copy of its death rattle effect. Well, if you're going to try for a heavy death rattle deck, I think this would be worth playing. I think you probably could find something better if you're not gonna do a heavy death rattle thing. If you were going for something like Thaddeus, or doing this would potentially give you 2 Thaddeus's for 3 extra mana, which would be quite nice. The real one I would want to get, though, is there is the Unstoppable Steed card that's a Warlock card. I think it's called Unstoppable Steed. And it has the ability that it just resummons whenever it dies. If I could play this, which I can't because it's a rogue card, with an Unstoppable Steed, then this would resummon every time it dies. And, well, I think it would. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it would resummon once and that would be it. It probably would only resummon once. Interesting. That'd be interesting to test out, but you would have to, as a rogue deck, steal a Warlock card. So, theoretically possible, just very difficult to do. And finally we have a 4 mana, 5 attack, 4 health card called the Tomb Pillager. It has a death rattle to add a coin to your hand. I think that's good. I think that's a fine card. Play this with that, get 2 coins. That would be fine. Moving on to Shaman. We have a 1 mana, 1 attack, 3 health creature called the Tunnel Trog. Whenever you overload, gain +1 attack per locked mana crystal. Interesting. So the way this is written means if you had 10 locked mana crystals, this thing would gain 10 attack. But to get to 10 locked mana crystals, you're probably going to play 3 or 4 cards. So let's say you played one that overloaded and locked 3. You would gain 3 attack then, so he'd be at 4. Then you played another that unlocked another 3. He would then gain 6 more, and you would be at 10. And then you play another 3, well, or more simply, you play another 4, so you have locked all 10. He would be at 16, 17, 18, 19, I think 20? Really? Could you get this guy up to 20 in one turn if you just locked all 10 things? It feels like you could. I still wouldn't really want to play an overload deck, though. It's too risky. But if you can control overload, this is definitely a card I'd want in there. Next we have is a 4 mana, 2 attack, 6 health creature called the Rumbling Elemental. After you play a Battlecry minion, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. Well, I don't know how many Battlecry enemies are cards you could get into a Shaman deck, but if you can get a lot, I would definitely play this card. There's nothing really wrong with this card. Its attack is a little low, but that's it. And then finally we have a 7 mana spell called Every Fin is Awesome, reference to the Lego movie, which is a great movie. Give your minions +2/+2, cost 1 less for each Murloc you control. Well, if you were going to play a Murloc deck for the Shaman, which you probably should, I think this would be a great card to have. Getting 4 Murlocs on deck is really easy. Giving them all +2/+2 would be very helpful, and that would only cost 3 mana if you had 4 Murlocs. You could have 7 Murlocs on deck. It's as easy as any other deck filling maneuver where you would have 7 creatures, and then this would be for free, 0 mana, and it gives everything +2/+2. Now, the only thing you really would want to compare this card to is this card better than Bloodlust? Because you can play Bloodlust, which will give every creature you have 3 attack, and I think Bloodlust is only 5 mana. So don't take out any Bloodlusts in your deck for this, but otherwise I would add this if you don't have anything better, which you probably could toss something out worse than this card. Even though it's kind of expensive to begin with, it gets cheaper based on your Murloc controls. I would only use this in a Murloc deck, though. I don't see any reason why you'd ever play this card when you didn't have any Murlocs. Moving on from the Shaman, we're at the Warlock. Now remember, the card that I think should have been in the Warlock deck is the Animated Armor. So I'm going to compare all the Warlock cards to why wasn't this in here. First one is a 1 mana, 1 attack, 1 health creature called the Reliquary Seeker. As a battle cry, if you have 6 other minions, gain +4/+4. On a Warlock deck, it's not super likely that you would have 6 other minions. And then getting +4/+4 seems a little low considering you're starting at a 1/1. I don't see a reason why you would play this card for any of the reasons that are shown on this card. The only reason why I think you might play this is if you were just short on 1 mana creatures to play in a Warlock deck, but still there's not a lot of reason why you'd want to play this because it's not a demon card, so you can't benefit it with any of the magic spells that would increase the attack of demons, and there are a bunch of 1 mana neutral cards that will probably be more worth their weight than this would. So I don't think many people would want to play this card. I don't see a real reason. Next one we have is a 2-mana spell, Curse of Rafam. Give your opponent a cursed card. While they hold it, they take 2 damage on their turn. Well, that's great, but how do they get rid of the cursed card? Here's one of these cards that I have no idea if this is a good card or not until somebody plays it against me. Because I don't know if a cursed card is a 0-mana cursed card. I don't know if a cursed card is a 10-mana cursed card. If it's 10 mana, then for many turns they would be taking 2 damage. If it's 0 mana, they potentially can just play the card and be done with it. And I don't know what those curse cards are going to do. I bet there's a whole pool of different types of curse cards that we need to see, and unfortunately there is no way that I know of to see any of those special cards that get created by cards like this. So that one I just is a big question mark. And then we have a 2-mana, 2 attack, 2 health creature called the Dark Peddler. Has a battle cry to discover a 1-cost card. Actually in your Warlock deck this is probably a good card because you are a little low on 1-mana creatures to play. That probably was their thinking of creating this one too, but neither one of these creatures are demon cards. And it's really weird for them to be Warlock only cards and they're not even demons. They didn't, either they couldn't make them demons or they just didn't think it through enough. But to get back to it, I still think by far this card should have been a Warlock card. This would have made Warlock so much more playable and so much more evenly balanced with all the other heroes. This card could easily have been a mage card. This card could have easily been a mage card. This card probably couldn't have been a mage card and made sense thematically. But either one of those could have been put in the mage section, and then that mage card could have been over here, and definitely feel like it should have been. Moving on to the warrior, we have a 1-mana, 2 attack, 3 durability weapon card called the Cursed Blade. Doubles all the damage dealt to your hero. Ooh. And this is for the warrior. I don't see any reason why I'd want to ever play that. I don't know of any cards that can silence a weapon to take away its ability. So if you played this, you're guaranteeing yourself doubling the amount of damage to your hero. And I don't know of many warrior specific cards that could give like immunity to your hero to stop that from happening. Yes, this really doesn't feel like something you'd want in your deck. Even if you played it on the first turn and they weren't going to attack you much, they probably would get an extra 5 to 10 damage off on you in the 3 turns it took you to attack and use this. And if they put up anything with a taunt, well then you're going to take double damage on that taunt to use this. Pretty terrible card there. And next we have is a 3-mana, 3 attack, 4 health creature called the Fierce Monkey. It has taunt. It's a beast. A beast in the warrior deck is a little weird. I don't know why you would have a beast creature in the warrior deck. That's not going to really help much. But otherwise I think that's a fine card you probably could find something that works better with the strategies of a warrior deck than just a taunt creature. But if you need a taunt creature that's 3 mana and 3 attack and 4 health, that's there for you to use. Finally, we have the 7 mana, 7 attack, 7 health creature Obsidian Destroyer. At the end of your turn, summon a 1/1 Scarab with Taunt. Well, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this. This is a fine 7 mana character that gives you a 1/1 with Taunt to protect him and your other creatures. Definitely would have him in your deck. If you can find one worse card than this, which you probably should be able to, put that in your deck. And then that's all the character specific cards. Now we are just into the neutral cards, which in a lot of ways I kind of wonder why don't they just stop making character specific cards at all and just make everything neutral so we can play them in all the decks. And they mostly do that, but I think they find some combination in test play that just won't work well or is too overpowered, and so they have to limit it to a specific character that can't do that combination. First one we have is a 0 mana, 1 health, 1 attack creature called Murloc Tinyfin. He's a Murloc. Definitely would put him in a Murloc deck. Next we have is a 1 mana, 1 attack, 3 health creature that's a Murloc called Sir Finley Morglungton. He has a battle cry to discover a new basic hero power. Interesting. So the discover phrase here is really weird. I don't think this should be called discover. This should be instead gain a random basic hero power. They introduced in the Grand Tournament expansion the concept of advanced hero powers, which you can get, but I haven't seen really come about that much or get used that much. But the phrase discover here is being used in a different sense than we've seen it on any other cards, and I think that's inaccurate. They shouldn't use that phrase there. Otherwise, that's a great card. It's a legendary card, play it. And it's a Murloc too. Next one is a 2 mana, 3 attack, 2 health, Huge Toad. He's a beast. He has a death rattle to deal 1 damage to a random enemy. I think you're fine playing this card. I think he beats out a lot of 2 mana cards that don't have any special abilities or death rattles, and he's a beast. So particularly if you're playing a beast deck, consider having him. Next we have is a 2 mana, 1 attack, 1 health, Jeweled Scarab. It's a beast also. It has a battle cry to discover a 3 cost card. This time they are using the discover phrase the way we've seen it for other cards. Would I want to play this? I don't think I'd want this in my deck. I think you can do better, and if you play this on your second turn, you discover a random 3 cost card. Then you play that card. That's about all this does. It's almost certainly gonna die before it has a chance to do any real damage, if any damage at all. I think you can do better than that card. Next we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 4 health card called Bran Bronzebeard. He's a major player in the advertisement for the League of Explorers. Your battle cries trigger twice. Yeah, I think you definitely want him in your deck if you're going to do a battle cry deck, but we're going to have to see. You'd have to go through every card that has battle cry in it to figure out whether you'd want. So like click here and type in the word battle cry. That's how you would filter your entire deck. Well, you'd also have to go to all sets, but then type in battle cry and then see all the battle cry cards you could make And if you can make a deck with a bunch of battle cries that would be really helpful, definitely double them. But otherwise, I'm not sure I'd particularly have him in my deck. He seems a little bit like a waste. You probably could do better if you're not going for doubling battle cries. Next one we have is a 4 mana, 7 attack, 4 health creature called Ancient Shade. He has a battle cry, shuffle an ancient curse into your deck that deals 7 damage when drawn. Again, this is one of these cards that gives you a really powerful creature that probably would survive at least one turn. But then you have this curse card in your deck that will do 7 damage to you. That seems too much like gambling, too risky, not controlling enough. I don't think I'd play this card. I just don't think I'd play that card. I don't think I'd play any card that was kind of like that. Next we have is a 4 mana, 7 attack, 7 health creature called the Eerie Statue. Can't attack unless it's the only minion in the battlefield. Of course, this is a reference to the Doctor Who episode Don't Blink or Blink. They're even saying here, don't blink, don't turn your back, don't look away, and don't blink. A card like this would be really useful if you're going to play a heavy silence deck. If you're going to have more than just like one creature or one card that can silence a creature. Play this and then you play silence on him so then he doesn't have that limitation. There is a growing number, still not really enough to make a entire deck, but there's a growing number of cards that say things like they can't attack or can't attack this turn unless inspired. Things like that. So if you had 15 cards like that and then you had 15 other cards that would silence those abilities so they can attack, you might be able to make a rather interesting and maybe powerful deck. I'm not sure if that would be diverse enough, but it would throw a lot of players for a loop, I can tell you that much. And it's kind of interesting too that a silence would help this card quite a lot, because in the Doctor Who mythology there is a group called the Silence that was working somewhat with the Weeping Angels. No, they weren't working with them, but they were around at the same time. So 2 Doctor Who references in one card, basically. Next card we have is a 4 mana, 3 attack, 5 health creature called the Elias Starseeker? Elias Starseeker? Interesting. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Battle cry, shuffle the map to the golden monkey into your deck. Well, I have no idea what the map to the golden monkey card is. A large part of her job entails not mixing up the map to the golden monkey with the map to the monkey island. Hey, there's a Monkey Island reference, which is a point and click adventure game that I will eventually get around to covering. Well, not knowing what the map to the golden monkey is, there's no way to know if this card is worth playing. I imagine in the adventure we will play this card and figure it out, and then you'll have to make your decision then whether the map to the golden monkey gives you some super powerful creature or some spell. Next one we have is a 4 mana, 3 attack, 4 health creature called the Gorilla Bot A3. It has a battle cry, if you control another mech, discover a mech. I think if you're going to play a mech deck, definitely have this in your cart. There is a legendary mech that will turn into like Voltron. It's not called Voltron, but it's almost spelled like Voltron. And it requires there to be 3 random mechs on your field. So if you played this, you'd have a mech on your field. You would have already had a mech on your field to use its battle cry and discover that third mech. So then if you discovered the third mech and summoned it, you very easily might get to the Voltron, which is rather hard to do. I've never seen anybody do it. So this might help towards that goal. Next one we have is a 4 mana, 3 attack, 3 health creature called the Tomb Spider. It's a beast. It has a battle cry to discover a beast. I think you might very well play this in your beast deck. It's a little expensive by like 1 mana. But if you just want to make sure you have another beast in your hand, and you are running low on beasts quite often in your beast deck, which I don't know how you'd really do that, since there are way more beasts in Hearthstone than anything else. But if you find yourself in that situation, yeah, I think you very well might play this card. Next we have the 5 mana, 4 attack, 4 health creature called the Anubis Soth Sentinel. I'm not going to bother to try to pronounce that again. It has a death rattle to give a random friendly minion +3/+3. I don't, because it's not like a totem creature or anything like that, I don't see a great reason why you would play this card, but if you didn't have any better 5 mana cards, it's alright. It's a little low on its attack or health, being 5 mana for 4/4, but it then kind of makes up in that by a little bit by giving a random friendly minion +3/+3. But when you kind of think of the gameplay here, let's say there was a 1/1 that was your friend, and the guy, your opponent, could attack twice. He would read this card almost certainly, kill the 1/1 first, then kill this guy. So this is one of those cards that would only really work for the opponents that don't bother to read cards they're not familiar with. People that are familiar with this will just make an effort to kill your other minions before they kill this. So probably wouldn't play it. Probably better cards out there. Moving on, we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 6 health creature called Djinn of Zephyrs. Whenever you cast a spell on another friendly minion, cast a copy of it on this one. Well, that seems like a great card. That seems like a card you could have in your warrior deck if you're going to try to increase the attack. You could have it in your priest deck if you're going to try to increase the defense. You could have it in your mage deck if you're going to try to increase the spell damage. You could probably have it in almost every deck, and it would be really worth it. This just seems like a great card. It is also a little weird that this is getting labeled as an epic card, since none of these cards are craftable at all. I don't see why they bothered to waste the effort to label things as epic or not epic or legendary. But they did. Just, I guess that is some indicator as far as the thinking patterns of the card creators, that they label them as different rarities, even though everybody who gets and beats the solo adventure, the League of Explorers, is going to get all of these cards. I think. At least that's how it's been before. Next card we have is a 5 mana, 5 attack, 5 health creature called Naga Sea Witch. Your cards cost 5 mana. If she had studied harder, she would have been a C+ witch. School jokes. This is a late game card, but it is actually a rather great card. Uh, if you're going to have a very late game deck where more than half of your deck is going to cost 5 mana or more, really needs to cost more than 5 mana, this is a card you would play. Uh, there's nothing wrong with it as far as its attack or health, and then it decreases the cost of everything that is 5 or more mana down to 5. Uh, However, unfortunately, it increases the cost of everything that was below 5 or more and to 5 if you played this on your 5th turn. Uh, I'm not a huge fan of long playing games though, so personally I don't see myself ever making a deck that this would be useful in. But I could see if somebody was a late game player, if they had a lot of 10 mana creatures in their deck, that could cut the cost down to um, 5. And there's nothing. There's an interesting thought here as to whether how the other cards that change the cost of minions would interact with this. Because there are cards that say your minions cost 1 less this turn, or the first minion you summon costs 1 less. So if they start off as 5, and then you could get it down even lower using a combination of other cards, you might have a pretty good 3 or 4 card combination to summon something for almost free that's very powerful. That needs some experimenting, definitely. Next card we have is a 5 mana, 0 attack, 6 health creature called the Summoning Stone. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a random minion of the same cost. Well, I don't know. It's too expensive is the real problem with this card. I could see having this in a mage deck and doing a 5-6 level spell and getting a 5 or 6 level creature, but it seems too expensive really to have this in your deck. And if you're going to put something that's cost 5 mana to do kind of a random summon, that's all this really is. Uh, if you had to play a card to make this cheaper, then play another card to summon something, I really don't think the number of cards you spend to summon that and use it would be worth it. So I'd skip that one. Next we have a 6 mana, 4 attack, 6 health creature called Reno Jackson, which I suppose he is supposed to be some kind of uh, relationship to Harrison Jones. If it has a battle cry, if your deck contains no more than one of any card, fully heal your hero. I mean, well, that certainly would be a card. If you're going to play this, I would definitely recommend having the Hearthstone deck tracker up so that you could look at your deck and see if you only have one of any card. Or you would have to make a very specific deck that only had one of each card, which would be really weird and probably silly. We don't have enough cards in Hearthstone yet that you could really get away with that. So for 6 mana, you get this creature, which is alright. He's a little underpowered as far as his attack and health. But you also have the chance of fully healing your hero, which might be as much as 29 health, but would probably average to below 15. This card just strikes me as too weird to play. I don't see why I would play it. Yeah, it just seems a little too gambling. Maybe that's why it's called Reno. It sounds like a place you would gamble but always lose. That's Reno, from what I've heard. Next one we have is a 6 mana, 2 attack, 6 health creature called the Wombling Runts. It has a death rattle to summon 3 2/2 runts. The problem with this card, and I'm saying that a lot of these cards actually don't feel like they're gonna be really worth it. But some of them are. There's definitely a few ones that look great. Uh, but the problem with this one in particular is you play it on your 6th turn. And this feels more like the type of thing you do on your 1st or 2nd turn, is play something that has a death rattle to summon something else. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see how you could make a deck where you'd really want to play this. It's just too expensive. Moving on, we have 2 more cards. We have a 8 mana, 8 attack, 8 health creature called the Fossilized Devilsaur. It has a battle cry: if you control a beast, gain taunt. Well, I would definitely have this card in a beast deck. There is no reason why you wouldn't. That is a great card. It's not a beast itself. I've noticed lately we're not getting a lot of cards that are getting labeled as beasts or mechs, or we had some Murlocs in there, but no like 1 mech card and 4 or 5 beasts. There's already a ton of beasts, and no new style of creatures. They could have come out with explorers and had people like Reno Jackson be labeled as explorers, or they could have come out with humans at some point and just labeled humans as humans, although that would be kind of boring. I'd rather them have elves before they had humans, or dwarves before they had humans. Humans are probably the last group you'd want to label. Last card we are at is a 9 mana, 7 attack, 8 health creature called Arc Thief Rafam. It has a battle cry: to discover a powerful artifact. Again, a card that needs you're gonna have to play with it to figure it out, because we have no idea what the artifacts are. By itself, it's a little weak, but if every single artifact is super useful and does something amazing, which it very well might, definitely seems like something you'd want to play. So I was kind of expecting a little bit more Discover cards. I was kind of also personally hoping they would stop making solo adventures and instead just focus on the on card expansions, so they can make more cards and not bother with crazy boss battles that the solo adventures do. I think the ultimate winner would have been this in Warlock, and probably still the ultimate winner of the cards is Animated Armor. I think for a mage deck, that's just going to make mage decks even more powerful. So I just want to quickly go back to the last expansion that was the solo adventure, Blackrock Mountain, and we can see the comparison here. You only got 2 of each of those cards for each character in Blackrock Mountain. So they did expand the number of cards, and they added about 5 more neutral cards here. So we are getting more cards for the League of Explorers than we ever have before, but in comparison to a card-only expansion, which was the latest one, was the Grand Tournament, you're talking a night and day different. 9 cards for the Druid, new. 10 cards for the Hunter. 9 for the Mage. And just keep going. I won't name all of them, but you can see how the card expansions really adds more cards and makes it more useful. It just changes the game up, and that's what we want, if we want anything. And it has only been about 4 months since the Grand Tournament card expansion, and I had expected and hoped that it would have been closer to 6 months before they announced the new expansion, but whatever, it's coming, so I'll play it, and I will have a new video out as soon as possible covering the League of Explorers. When it gets unlocked, I will make a video for every single enemy and release them as soon as possible. So it's not going to be a daily thing, it's just going to be as soon as possible. So make sure you subscribe to me on Twitter and Facebook and all those things so you can see when those videos come out if you want to catch them. But I will also be still releasing all of my other games that I cover on the Monday through Friday schedule, including my regular Hearthstone episodes, which I actually play Hearthstone and talk about what else is going on my channel. So, we are done with this look at all the cards. Overall, I'd give it a B, B plus for the cards. Some of them seem like they'll be very useful. Some of them need a lot of experimentation, and a lot of them seem like I'd never play them ever. As always, I ask you to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and comment if you want to, and watch every second of my videos, because all that helps me with YouTube. It helps me with my career on YouTube, so please do that. If you are so kind, you can click on my name, Rydo. That'll take you to my main YouTube page. On the right is a blue button that says support this channel. If you can click that and make a donation of any amount, I would greatly appreciate it. Also on my main YouTube page is a playlist tab. Click that and look at all the games I've covered. I have a playlist for every game. Check out some of those. That would be very much appreciated. And then down below in the description box, I have a link for every single social media site I'm on. Let me know in the comments if I should be on some other social media sites. So friend and follow me on that. Down below I have my battle.net ID, so you can friend me on here, which would be helpful to have more friends on Hearthstone for people that actually play on Hearthstone. And if you friend me, I very well in a future episode might play against you. Also is my Steam account if you want to see all the games I have and try to figure out how to donate games, which would be very helpful too. So, anywho, that's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.